will be presenting fentanyl abuse in teens. Before we start, let me introduce our team to you. Hello, my name is Jayla Wen, and I'm currently the Vice President of HOSA.
Hi, my name is Amelia Gulab, and I'm a member of HOSA. I'm Elizabeth Morales, and I'm a member of HOSA.
My name is Aaron Rivas. I'm also in HOSA.
Now, half of us in this room don't even know what fentanyl is. Knowing what fentanyl is super important to prevent overdose deaths against fentanyl. So what is fentanyl? Fentanyl is a synthetic drug made for pain relief or as an anesthetic for surgery. So then why is it so dangerous? The reason why it's so dangerous is because it has a 50 to 100 times more potency than more common known drugs such as heroin and morphine. So imagine the tip of your pencil. That tiny amount is considered fatal to your life. This is why we go into the dangers of fentanyl in this whole presentation, so it's important for you to pay attention. First, let's look at statistics. In 2022, around 34,000 adolescents reported misusing fentanyl. If you divert your attention to this line chart, as you can see from 2019 to 2023, deaths have nearly doubled by 700. And keep in mind that these ages of teens range from 13 years old to 17 years old. And 76% of these overdoses are specifically caused by fentanyl. Fentanyl is one of the most dangerous drugs affecting teens today because it impacts the brain both short-term and long-term. For short-term, it slows down your central nervous system, which is what controls your heart rate. So what happens in the body is the fentanyl binds to your opioid receptors in your brain, which causes your heart rate to stop for 1 to 3 minutes. Additionally, it causes your respiratory system to stop breathing for 1 to 5 minutes. For the long term, fentanyl can lead to over-causing issues, complications in your brain over time, and such as your prefrontal cortex, which is your impulsive decision-making, and judgment. What happens in the prefrontal cortex is that when you are a developing teen, you are more vulnerable to cellular damage, and it can also disrupt your natural body dopamine system, which is your satisfactory sensory. This causes you to feel irregular without fentanyl. Now let's talk about health conditions. Mentally, when your body is disrupted from its natural dopamine system, you can feel so dependent on this drug, which makes it harder for you to feel normal without fentanyl. This causes things like depression, anxiety, loss of motivation, and mood swings. Physically, when the fentanyl disrupts your body systems, it can cause things such as heavy breathing, slowed breathing, losing unconsciousness occasionally, even feeling drowsiness or damage to the lungs due to irregular breathing. Next, we have a video from Fox News that shows you the reality of fentanyl abuse in teens.
Fentanyl overdose deaths in teens tripled over the last 2 years. That's according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid that was approved for treating severe pain, typically in advanced cancer patients. But in today's Your Healthy family, fentanyl overdose cases are almost always linked to illegally made fentanyl.
The current fentanyl crisis falls into two kinds of tragedies. People overdosing on fentanyl because of an addiction to painkillers, and people who have no idea a recreational drug or drug of abuse they're taking has been laced with fentanyl. Teens just experimenting with illegal or party drugs alone used to be the concern for parents. But now,
because we don't know what medications are potentially added to drugs of abuse, that even that first time of use can lead to tragedy.
Emergency medicine Dr. Robert Lamb says because fentanyl comes in many forms, drug dealers are able to lace the powerful synthetic opioid into powders like heroin and cocaine. Pills and even a liquid form can be slipped into nasal sprays, eye drops, and edibles.
It's being added to a lot of drugs of abuse. And we don't really know when it's actually present in a drug of abuse because there's not a certain smell to it or a look to it that would indicate that it's part of a drug of abuse, but it's being added because it's meant to increase the potency of some of these drugs, but the concentrations and how quickly it affects actually is causing a significant amount of tragedy.
Which he says is particularly worrisome for kids and teens because of their size and the way they metabolize substances.
Because only such a small amount can cause such a significant effect to a patient, we need to be particularly careful with children anytime we're dealing with a medication or a drug of abuse.
So, how can we prevent overdose deaths in teens? And is there a way to spot a fentanyl overdose? I'm Lisa Greenberg, and I'll show you how coming up in tomorrow's Your Healthy Family.
Now, in this video, it showcases that fentanyl can be hidden in a lot of things, so it's important for you to recognize any kind of dangers. In this presentation, we will showcase how to prevent it and the dangers as well, which we won't showcase in further video.
Educational and career complications. As we know, we are all in high school. Every decision we make can affect our future decisions. If we are on fentanyl, it can impair how your high school journey goes, as it can lead to fatal grades, and it can also lead into you graduating, as if you're failing your classes, how can you graduate? In some cases, it can also lead you to dropping out, as you're so dependent on this drug. If you struggle in high school, you're going to struggle in the real world, as it can lead to difficulty in job maintenance. As how are you supposed to focus on your job, focus on communicating with your co-workers or your boss if you can't even focus on your high school journey? This leads to a cycle of unemployment, as the legality of fentanyl is not legal at all. And some jobs will take this in consideration, as they can find better people, more reliable people than you. Culture and social problems. Who here is on social media? Almost everyone, right? As it is a way that we could connect with any type of person. On these platforms, it has creators and influencers. They have the power to go and promote anything they want. Well, the National Crime Prevention did an investigation on this. And on this investigation on teens that was overdosing, it showed that 80% of these teens that was overdosing was happening because of these influencers promoting it, while only 20% was doing it because of their own reasons. And further on, the DEA, also known as the Drug Enforcement Administration, did an investigation on these pills that the influencers was promoting it to people to buy. And it shows that was 58.8% of these pills was laced with lethal, other known as deadly amounts of fentanyl, while only 41.2% was not. To put that in perspective, that was 7 out of 10 of these pills was laced with lethal amounts. Further on, the hospitals noticed that their data was increasing. This data was 69% of these teens was entering into these hospitals asking for medication that was not made for their body because of these influencers promoting it. Struggles and responsibilities. Like I said before, fentanyl impairs every part of our life. One of this is physically, as it can lead to a permanent risk of respiratory failure because of the singular pill that you may take. Or it can lead to dependency on this drug because you're getting addicted to it. That puts your mental state at risk and at harm too, as it can lead to deteriorating trust and bonds. As you're so dependent of this drug, you want to push everyone else of your life away. This can lead to manipulation, theft, or isolation. That puts a strain on your personal relationships too, as it can lead to so many other complications happening. If that doesn't get you financially, it would. As we know, money is everything nowadays. And on the black market, we have noticed that 50 to 50 cents to $5 of these pills was the cost. To you right now, it may seem like nothing, but over time, as you are addicted, it adds up. And if you get addicted to this drug, it would lead to overdose where you have to go to the ER. That will put you in $20,000 in debt. Put that on top of rehab visits because you want to get better. That puts you in plus $80,000 in debt. And as you get better, you have to go and get stabilization. That's $20,000 more in debt that you will be in. which is 3 years, fentanyl-related deaths increased by 250%. So it went from 253 to 884 fentanyl-related deaths, and again, only 3 years. In 2018, white youth had the highest overdose rate. In later years, in 2022, Alaskan Native and Native American youth had nearly double what the white youth had in 2018. Following shortly after, Black youth had the highest increased rate in a shortened amount of time, and Hispanic youth following shortly after. In some parts of the country, you can find nearly regions where there are 70% increase in male-related fentanyl overdoses than women. As we grow, our brain goes with us, and part of the brain is the prefrontal cortex. And if you don't know, the prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that helps you with decision-making and choosing things. And because of this, the prefrontal cortex grows at a slower rate than the rest of your brain, which has led to the reputation of teenage rebellion. And during this stage of a slower prefrontal cortex, teenagers try to grow more independent, they want to try things out on their own, and they want to rebel. And one form of rebellion is, of course, drug use. Kids will also drink, they'll smoke, they'll go out. But of course, no one wants to get hurt while doing this, so they'll find the safest method possible. They'll go online, and they'll go on Instagram, they'll go on Snapchat, and any other social media app, and they'll find these reputable dealers who are selling legitimate pharmaceuticals. And in the case of one girl who bought oxycodone offline, she unfortunately died because it was laced with fentanyl. In the case of 3 more girls who bought ecstasy off of somebody online that was also laced, they had to receive Narcan and had to live with permanent brain damage the rest of their lives. Data shows that 21.9% of people who had overdosed had also a mental illness. 59% of those people had some form of depressive disorder, and 43% of those people had some form of anxiety-related disorder. This in itself shows that there is a connection between the two. But this can be deadly because when people have undiagnosed disorders, they'll go online and they'll try and buy pills to make themselves happier, to numb the pain, or simply to go back to how they were previously. And because of this, that can, of course, be deadly because you can get addicted. And this is even horrible for people in their youth because you have a developing body, and this, of course, not only destroys your body, but it destroys your life. Because now that you have become addicted, you are starting to lose friends, you're losing your jobs, you might get kicked out, and because of that, you go back and buy more. You become depressed again, and you buy more. And it's just a never-ending cycle that's so hard to get out of. Data shows that 4 out of 10 fentanyl-laced pills can be fatal. Look around you, count 10 people. 4 of those 10 people could die because of just 1 pill.
Now, what is naloxone? Naloxone is essentially a lifesaver which reverses opioid overdose and increases survival chances. It is mostly known as Narcan because that is the main distributor of naloxone. Availability in schools and communities can save lives. It is crucial in high-risk areas where fentanyl overdoses are very common. It supports recovery and also helps combat the teen opioid crisis. Non-fatal overdoses serve as critical warnings to those who survive. Teens who survive are more likely at risk for fatal overdose due to substance combination. Some of the warning signs may be the following: confusion, drowsiness, and trouble breathing. If you experience any of these signs, please seek immediate medical attention, even if it does not seem fatal at first. The long-term impact of it can be long-lasting mental or physical effects. Polysubstance danger is essentially mixing fentanyl with any other substance like alcohol, weed, cocaine, or any other general drugs, which can create an even deadlier effect than just ingesting fentanyl by itself. Ways we can prevent and educate about this is things like this, like the showcase where we're teaching about the dangers and the risk of taking fentanyl. And also courses required like taking your learner's permit or anything else. Ways we can intervene is support safe spaces, make naloxone easier to reach, also easier access to rehabilitation programs for people who need it.
Thank you so much for listening to us. If you could please exit by the front doors, the hoster has a gift for you.
Excellent. If you're in Ms. Knox' class, this is your opportunity to go to the bathroom once you hit the hallway. Beat me there.
All right, my class, y'all wait for me, okay?